only have an hour to spend time together. So, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Stephanie Caverdatz, and I oversee our campus and house officer team with Ethos Veterinary Health. And I have been in veterinary medicine for a little over 13 years now. And 3 of those years, I've been a part of Ethos, and I am super excited to introduce you to Ethos as a company and also our brand new educational series, Careers Unleashed. Fun fact, you guys are actually our very first group of participants. So thank you all for kicking off our series with us tonight. Tonight's session is presented by Dr. John Hintermeister, a board certified oncologist and the director of medical operations at Ethos in the Central region. And before I kind of pass it over to him, I just wanted to kind of share a little bit about Ethos and my team and how we can support you all as you kind of net down your next steps. So let's start off by getting to know a little bit more about who we are at Ethos and highlighting some of our core areas. We are a cutting edge community of specialty and emergency pet hospitals across North America and pride ourselves on innovation and delivering world-class medicine. And to give you a little bit of sense of our reach and impact across the nation, we have 145 specialty and emergency hospitals spanned over 29 states in the US and Canada, and we serve over 1.4 million patients annually. So who is Ethos? We are a community of locally operated spec and ER hospitals united by a shared dedication to serving pets and people when they need it the most. Our purpose and vision are at the heart of everything that we do, and although our purpose is simple, it is very powerful, and it is to enrich the lives of pets and people. And while our vision is to revolutionize veterinary medicine. And so we continuously try to push boundaries to improve our services and outcomes for our hospitals, our staff, and our patients. And when I say things like innovation and world-class medicine, please know that they are not buzzwords for us. Like, we truly believe that they are a direct reflection of our commitment to leading in veterinary science and providing the best possible care for our patients. So some of you may have known us as NVA Compassion First. Now we are a proud newish company called Ethos Veterinary Health, and we are a union of 4 legacy hospital groups, and it is the 4 that you see there. So NVA Specialty and ER, Compassion First Pet Hospitals, Sage Veterinary Centers, and Ethos. And this union has kind of allowed us to combine our resources and expertise, enabling us to better serve our communities and just elevate the standard of care that we provide. Excuse me. So now the big question, right? How do we do that? So in order to revolutionize veterinary medicine, we need the best minds in the field. And that is why we are invested so heavily on ongoing research through clinical trials and our discovery incubator, which aims to address unmet diagnostic needs and therapeutic needs in the industry. And so at Ethos, we place a strong emphasis on mentorship and evidence-based education in all of our programs. And what that means is experienced team members are always going to be there through every step of the way to kind of guide and support their colleagues, both in their personal and professional development. And this slide is, it's a lot to take in. So I'm not going to cover everything, but it is a culmination of all of our mentorship programs. And I just wanted to kind of include it to give you an overview of the diverse mentorship programs we have at Ethos. All of our programs are designed to support both nursing and DVM students, as well as practicing DVMs. So for DVM students like yourselves, we offer externships that provide hands-on clinical experience in private practice settings, specifically tailored for 3rd and 4th year vet students. If you want to learn more about our externships, do not miss our session on August 27th, I believe, with Dr. Michelle Magellan. It's going to be a great session, so we hope to see you all there. And then for new grads, we have several career pathways to choose from, including rotating internships, ER-Immers, or our ER-ABVP guided path. And all three of those programs offer a very structured experience across various departments, providing a comprehensive year-long training. So if specialty medicine is something that interests you, then most likely you're going to consider an internship or a residency program once you graduate. And if you are trying to decide between private practice or academia, our training programs at Ethos kind of offer the best of both worlds, and that is something we are very proud of. We provide the advantages of an efficient private practice with an environment and caseload, and then we also have unrivaled support for education and research projects and professional develop along with the academia environment. So as an Ethos House officer, you will receive access to over 50 veterinary journals to keep you updated with latest research. You'll have a dedicated house officer team. That is us. We are the house officer and campus team. And we are there to help support and guide you as you kind of navigate your next steps through your career. And then additionally, Ethos Discovery backs house officer-led research projects, offering opportunities for you all to contribute to different meaningful studies within your field. So if you'd like to learn more about internship and residency opportunities for our upcoming VIRMP cycle, we actually have 2 sessions, one on August 13th and one on August 20th, led by our clinical L&D team and our house officer team. And that would be a great opportunity for you guys to kind of understand some of the intricacies about VIRMP and then learn about some of the open opportunities within our network if you're interested. So hopefully we'll see you there. Let's talk a little bit about our ER-Immers program. So whether you're a new grad or you're just new to emergency medicine, this program will definitely set you up for a successful career in ER. It includes in-hospital mentorship from experienced clinicians and specialists. And you'll also have access to online materials and resources through VetBloom and our competency-based online didactic curriculum will just ensure that you gain a very comprehensive practical skill set. So along with that, we also offer live CE events led by specialists and experienced ER doctors. So you kind of learn from both aspects in the field. And then our program is flexible in terms of length and hospital type. It allows you to choose kind of what fits your goals best while receiving a competitive salary and benefits during your training period. So that way you guys can focus on education without any financial stress. And we recognize that mentorship is a specific skill set. So our clinical L&D team provides specific tools for all of our mentors for resources. One thing I did want to call out is that it is important to know that mentorship at Ethos is defined as an experienced team member guiding and supporting colleagues in both their professional and personal development. And that way, both the mentors and mentees can benefit from this reciprocal knowledge exchange. And then the mentorship for our ER-Immers program does go one more step further, and it's defined by a relationship with at least one clinician who will provide you off the floor feedback on medical and professional topics. And if emergency medicine is the path that you wish to take, you can always advance your ER career with a board certification through the American Board of Veterinary Practitioners, ABVP, without needing any type of formal residency. So for new grads, we offer a 36-month program that provides a distinct opportunity for publication and career growth. And then if you just happen to be an ERI mentee prior to wanting to kind of enhance your skills in ER medicine, our Immers curriculum that I just talked about also gives you credits towards the self-paced pathway, providing you with a head start if that is something you want to choose to do with your continued training. And one of the things that I personally love about working for Ethos is the culture here. So, what kind of complements IQ better than EQ, right? So all of our training programs partner with our community team to create an empowered and healthy community that focuses on skilled leadership, trust, and accountability. We address issues like burnout and compassion fatigue. We also provide resources that enhance effective communications with clients and staff. We provide opportunities for additional skill set training and leadership growth. And so by delivering these training and resources aligned with our ethos mission, we support staff at all levels across the company. And it definitely fosters a culture of feedback and engagement, not only within our hospitals, but also at our support center. And as mentioned earlier, science and discovery are at the forefront of everything that we do. So we are revolutionizing veterinary medicine through research and evidence-based practices. Our Ethos Discovery program addresses unmet clinical needs, and it provides improved diagnostics and treatment options for patients. And through discovery, we can provide our doctors with opportunities to practice this cutting edge medicine while our patients have access to these novel diagnostic treatments. And then additionally, Ethos Discovery also provides mentorship and research opportunities for Ethos doctors and house officers. So it definitely fosters a sense of growth and development within the feeling overall. And then on the other side of the slide, we have our veterinary science and consultancy, VSC, and that serves it serves all of our various industry partners, including animal health companies, just like pharma and biotech. So these companies hire VSC to design and conduct clinical trials on their products within our own Ethos hospitals. And then that provides us the opportunity to practice and then offer these therapies that are, would not necessarily be available without this outside their network. So through these programs, we really try to just transform veterinary medicine with research and evidence-based practices. And this slide, it's my last slide, and it is one of my favorites because it just provides a fun visual representation of our extensive network of hospitals. As you can see, we do have a diverse range of hospitals spread across various regions, and I am sure many of you recognize some of these logos. So together, these hospitals have a significant impact on their local communities. And we just pride ourselves on being able to provide essential services and support for pet owners. And we are very proud to have them a part of our Ethos network. And that is all that I have for you this evening. So now I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Hintermeister, who will introduce himself and go over tonight's topic, demystifying compensation.
Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Still currently see them?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome. My name is John Hintermeister. As mentioned, I'm a board certified oncologist, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the ins and outs and language and thought processes and the what's and whys regarding your contract compensation models, different points of compensation. Kind of I hope to be able to give you some trends about what it once was or what it was before, and then kind of where it's at now, and then potentially where it's going in the future. So all right, so kind of a brief slide on our agenda, some terminology regarding contracts or employment agreements, modeling on some compensation and compensation, detail, and any other questions that you have or we may have or can come up, or questions that you might also consider asking regarding your contract, and then a few points on negotiation. Now, Stephanie, be able to ask questions throughout this?
Yes,
Or you use the
absolutely.
chat? Okay, and you can throw them out as needed. Is that the best way to do it, you think?
Yeah, so my team, we're going to monitor the chat. They can throw any questions in, and then at the end, if we have time, we can do kind of like a live Q&A if they have any additional questions.
Perfect. Okay, I think we'll have time. So, okay, so kind of want to make this a little interactive. So please use the chat feature. It's on the top of the screen. You can type in your questions, and I'll probably pause throughout some of these topics, and as we move on from point to point, and see if there's any questions, we can do it that way. So, okay. All right, that's me. As mentioned, veterinarian, board certified oncologist. I did vet school at University of Illinois, graduate in 1995. Went back after 3 years of GP and ER and spec ER and kind of a jack of all trades, 3 years in veterinary medicine to do the residency. Started that in 98. I just finished clinical duties for Legacy Ethos, now Ethos, in early 2023. I have held a range of administrative roles throughout the years, starting with one of the foundational groups that formed Legacy Ethos way back in 16. And I became a regional medical director for Ethos, and then currently serve as director of medical operations for the so-called Central Region. Another point I'll add is that my father was a veterinarian. I've been in veterinary medicine pretty much all my life. I always joke around that my first job was holding the flashlight on bovine obstetric calls late at night in the dead of summer or dead of night. So been around for a while. All right, some terminology points that I think are noted for you to know and kind of know what they mean and kind of the what's and whys behind them when it relates to veterinary employment agreements or contracts. And those two terms are used synonymously. Historically, they've always been referred to as contract, but I think the more appropriate term and a term that's likely going to be used moving forward by many would be an employment agreement. It is legal and binding. You are signing an agreement with your employer, and it's for protection of both sides. Um, it does offer clarity for your role and your responsibilities. It does then allow security, again, both sides of the aisle, so to speak. There are many types of agreements that can be in place in professional communities, professional worlds in veterinary medicine. But by far, hands down, the most common in veterinary medicine is a written agreement, a formal signed document. Again, designed to give you clarity and security, minimize disputes if any come up. You do need to kind of note your state or any given state's employment laws that hold true. Some states have very different laws when it comes to employee and employer relationship. Um, uh, and again, ideally, when you're entering one of these things, it can be reviewed by an attorney. All right. So some of the key items that will come up within a contract are so-called restrictive covenants. Restrictive covenants are to limit the activities of the employee during and many times after their employment with a particular group. They are designed to protect the employer's competitive advantage. The employer that you are working for has maybe a number of years to create their business and in their community, and again would like to maintain that advantage in their community and avoid, in a given employee taking that knowledge and taking trade secrets and taking information down the street to a competitor. Within the category of restrictive covenants, there are many different types, and we'll go over those here shortly. Here's a listing of them. The one that's getting the most word now, and the one that's getting the most has historically been the most discussed is the restrictive covenant regarding non-compete. Non-compete clauses, whether they be time. You can't work for a local competitor, regional competitor for X number of months or years, or whether they be in distance. You can't work for the next clinic down the road, but outside of a specific mile radius, 10 miles, 15 miles. That's where you cannot be employed for, again, oftentimes they're both a distance marker, usually measured as a radius around the clinic or a series of clinics perhaps, and for a certain period of time. Now, the covenant not to compete clause has come under question of recent, and recent meaning the last several years, and really hit it probably peak conversation these last several weeks when the Federal Trade Commission released a statement that they were going to eliminate non-compete clauses in professional contracts. It was quickly went to court, and a judge gave an injunction against it. So it is currently in the legal system and in a legal fight under appeal or injunction. And no one really knows how this is going to play out right now. There is a probability, and again, this is a little bit of my opinion, that the FTC will be needing to reverse that order, that it will not go through. But again, no one truly knows this in terms of the covenant not to compete. The next series of ones are fairly straightforward, but again, I think they deserve a little bit of additional background, a little bit more information. There is such a restrictive covenant regarding any confidential information that a professional, such as a veterinarian, would have received during their normal course of work, normal daily activities, that they would not be able to share with a competitor or with the outside world. These confidential informations may be certain vendor relationships, certain accounting practices, how items are charged for to the client, how just the normal, sometimes the day-to-day business, so-and-so's never there type of thing. So some of this confidential information that you would be able to be exposed to would have to remain that as a confidential articles. So if shared, that would limit the employer's competitive advantage, limit the employer as a business, hurt their business, and there would be, potential legal manifestations or legal activities that could take place against you. Duty of loyalty. That's kind of that's a newer topic, if you will, but it's basically would state that if you're employed by your employer, you're going to work for your employer. You're not going to have a large chunk of your time working for a competitor. You're not going to have a large chunk of your time working in a non-related industry, perhaps. Well, I can't come in today because I have to work my other job. Would be considered a violation of the duty of loyalty clause or covenant, and then you would need to make remedy for that. Non-disclosure of client information, kind of explanatory, but yeah, you can't take the clients from a given doctor and walk them down the street to a competitor and start using them, soliciting those clients, or using that client information, I should say. Also would apply to the next restrictive covenant in terms of non-solicitation. You can't say, hey, I'm down the road now, why don't you come down here and see me? It's a violation of most restrictive covenants. The other thing that's becoming a little bit more noteworthy, a little bit more important of recent years is that solicitation of personnel that you work for your previous employer, and then you again go down the street and work for another doctor, and you start recruiting the technicians and start recruiting staff, and hey, I'm down here, it's better, why don't you come work for me? A lot of times those restrictive covenants are in place for that protection. And again, a lot of times they will have a certain period of time associated with them. So, again, the restrictive covenants would need to be fair and just. You shouldn't have a non-solicitation of personnel covenant for an indefinite period of time. It would usually be for a year, year and a half, 2 years, that type of thing. Any questions on any of that, Stephanie? Yep. Nope. Okay, keep going. All right, another point that's often in most employment agreements is the topic of termination. Obviously, you enter these agreements with the idea that you won't be terminated or that it won't come to that. But again, there needs to be written legal verbiage in most employment agreements regarding this. There's two types of termination. One, with cause. Your employer can terminate the agreement that with cause, and that's usually something basically that you've done, you as the employee. Fraud, misrepresentation, you stole from the practice. There could be in many agreements language that would state if you are arrested for a felony, if you are, and again, it could be wide ranging. It could be pretty anything that any act that you could commit, could be subject to termination regarding some of these clauses. Without cause is hands down the most common. That's where the employee says to the employer, I'm giving notice. Usually the notice that's given, it can be range in time. It could be 0 days in some states, in some agreements. Professionally, a lot of times it's at least 30 to 60 days, sometimes 90. Used to be we would have termination clauses that would extend out 4 months, 120 days. Those are largely gone away, and I think now that it's shrunk down to about anywhere between 30 and 60 days. Is very common in most veterinary employment agreements. A couple other things to note when the agreement is terminated, either by the employer or the employee, is that there are some accounting things that need to be taken care of on both ends. A couple things I've written down here. Usually if you've accrued some PTO, that those monies that need to get returned to you. If you have accounting in terms of you owe the practice for some care that was provided to one of your pets, you're gonna have to pay that type of thing. Any equipment that you have would need to be returned. So again, there's some steps that need to be noted as the employment agreements are terminated that are important for both sides.
Hey, Dr. Hintermeister, we actually did have
Yes.
a note in the Q&A. Sorry, I was
Yes.
monitoring the chat, not the Q&A.
No
So
worries.
one of the questions is, would duty of loyalty also prevent you from working for a shelter doing nonprofit work?
Great question. Probably not. But again, it would be a conversation that you would have. The employee would have with the employer to make sure it's not a violation of that agreement. So, but I would say most of the time that would be no. If working for the shelter, 2 days a week eliminated those 2 days a week off of your schedule, that would be considered a conflict. So that would have to be worked through. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the other big part of an employment agreement is your compensation. And compensation, certainly dollars and cents, but we'll talk about other aspects of compensation, things to consider within your employment agreement that are important to note. But when it comes to dollars and cents, there are a lot of possible types, possible models of compensation. I've put several up here on the screen that are common in veterinary medicine currently. Probably the most common is the first one. It's called a pro-sal model, which is production plus salary. And we'll get into some of the highlights the pros and cons, and I'll give you some examples of of some of these models here in a couple of slides. Production only, you produce an amount of revenue that's credited to your services, and then you're paid a percentage off of that. Salary only, got some experience with that personally. You can have be paid by the hour. You can be paid per the shift. You could be paid work. Hey, come in and work for cover these hours or cover these cases type of thing. So there's, again, many different possible types, and you would need to be open to some of these and certainly have a conversation with your prospective employer regarding these. Oh, and I put down here, remember the tax man. So tax man always gets his fair share. You can have a whole different conversation about that, but when you're paid, you still have to owe Uncle Sam. So be wary of that. All right. Production and salary. Pro-sal model has been around for eons, and it is a combination of the employee collecting a base salary, and then applied to that salary is a production model, a production percentage. And it's usually as you do your work and as you collect revenue from that work, then that's kept accounted, and then that number would be assigned. You would have a revenue number, multiply that by the percentage, get a new number, and then those are the monies that would be used for this accounting. I'll get into some examples here shortly. The pro-sal model is probably favored by many because it can lead to a decent opportunity to collect increased compensation in dollars and cents to you. It does have the advantage of, I know I'm going to have a base salary, and if I do my work in a way that I can charge for and clients are happy and I collect those revenues, then I'll be able to get a production percentage of that in addition to my base salary. There are a really wide range of calculation methods. I'll share with you a couple of them here. Part of this can lead to this concept of negative accrual. And what that means is that if you are paid a base salary, and let's say cases weren't there, and I didn't feel like doing, and I didn't see them, or I was gone because of an illness, then you did not produce, and you did not produce to your number, and then you would wind up being in a negative situation. Negative accrual historically was, dealt with. You deal with it. You worked through it as the veterinarian. Kind of the concept now moving forward in time is one that many don't want to have, or if they still have it, then the negative accrual is calculated in a way that it doesn't hurt you for an extended period of time. Okay. And again, I'll hopefully be able to highlight this moving forward. Both the production percentage, base salary can be negotiated, and the payout methods can be variable as well. All right, so here's an example, and I've got some real life examples in the coming slides. Let's say a veterinarian has a base salary of $100,000 a year, or 8,333 per month. Their production percentage is negotiated 25%. And this particular DVM in a given month, in this month, has a production that's 45,000. So if I do the calculations down below real quickly, real basic, veterinarian would need to produce $400,000 in a calendar year, or in a year, or in a given year. Again, could be negotiated, could be defined, to produce the covered base salary, or roughly 33K a month. So in this example, veterinarian produced 45 minus the 33K, and that gave them a production allowance, $2 that would be owed to the veterinarian, around $11,000. All right, So real life example here on the screen. I hope the numbers are readable. It's the best I could do, but I'll walk you through some of this. And this is a sheet. Again, I've seen hundreds of these over the years, and this is a production ProSal model that the production is calculated monthly, as you see the given lines, but it is paid quarterly. Okay. So, and that is a model that, again, has changed over the years. When I first started veterinary medicine, my production, I was on a ProSal model, but my production was calculated monthly, paid yearly. So I worked the entire year and then I got a big check. Okay. So that kind of was the way it was. But, again, there's some that are calculated monthly, paid monthly. I've seen that over the years. Calculated monthly, paid quarterly, like this example. Calculated quarterly, paid quarterly is also one. So we've done and seen many of those over the course of time.
Dr. Hintermeister, we do have another
Yes,
question. So,
of course.
in paying taxes, will they
Mhm.
already be taken out for production, or will the earner need to be put in like an estimated amount aside?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. No, the production piece as well as your base salary piece is taxed the same based on IRS, based on your individual state. So it is viewed as compensation, period. It's not viewed as two separates. Okay, so there's not a different tax rate, one versus the other.
Thank you.
IRS wise, I'm confident of that state wise, but I don't know every state. So, all right. So with our example here, this veterinarian in column A had a paid revenue of 50,000, roughly 50,000. Commission eligible, I sorry I glossed over this before. There are some items commonly on a ProSal model that are not eligible for production. Treatment of your own pets is one of them. It's euthanasia, believe it or not. Sometimes it's changed over the years. Surgical implants, because of the high cost and use of those are a lot of times not production eligible. Um, and some possible production items may have a variable production, meaning your exam fee, very common in veterinary medicine, that's 100% producible to the DVM. But some of these other items, let's say a particular drug, maybe it's listed at 50% production to you. So again, every clinic, every group can do this a little differently. So there is some detail there that would need to be noted. But for this example, 50,000 roughly top line, commissionable worked down to 45K. So again, roughly $5,000 of what that veterinarian charged out for was deemed non-commissionable. Calculation, 25% times 45 should be around 11.2 here. This veterinarian at this month was paid 11,000 as a draw or salary, and that left a production bonus to the DVM for that month at $252. Same story repeats itself in February. This month a little better on a commissionable revenue, 52K versus 45K in February, led to a production bonus of $1,500. In March, didn't have as good a month on the production. Maybe vacation, maybe sick, maybe not. Again, who knows? We're in a deficit, but if you take 1755 minus the 9, then you give $800. That's what was paid quarterly to this clinician. Very common ProSal calculation. Go to another one. It's actually the very same clinic. I just stole from the same sheet. Same story. This veterinarian's salary didn't change, but the first one did. Commissionable revenue. We earned a bonus in January. We earned a bonus in February. Similar story. We had a deficit, led to a reduced payment, reduced bonus for that quarter. Okay.
Dr. Hintermeister, what would be an
Yes.
example of things that are deemed non-commissionable?
Things I talk. I mean, again, care and treatment of your own pet is one. Veterinary diets, any diet that you would sell is often another one. And every clinic and every group are going to have their items that they're going to deem non-commissionable. These are common ones across the industry. Again, surgical implants is often one. Some prescriptions, some medications that are either prescribed to the patient on an outpatient basis or used in hospital have a variable or no production commission assigned to them. So it does really vary. And again, that's where I mentioned a little bit of devil in the detail.
Thank you.
All right. So another model that can be used is production only. So you do not receive a base salary. Your salary is 100% based on what you produce. Percentage, again, can be negotiated. Variable production on some items may not have a production to be on the calculation. Really, this production only is good for very well-established, high-producing doctors. Okay. With that, you will then have a variable check amount based on how much you produced in that given time period. And again, there could be an alternate pay schedule, meaning you again kind of if you're paid if it's calculated quarterly, perhaps you're paid quarterly because there is no base salary to pay you. Some of the times it would be used as a draw against you. You could draw against it if need be. Again, production only is there. It's used. It's not used as frequently as it once was. I'll tell you that. Straight salary, pretty straightforward. You're paid a base salary. You're not eligible for production. Thus, it avoids that focus on production. And it can offer protection. I wrote protection to the DVMs, but it's also protection to the employer as well. I worked for a number of years when I was clinical on a straight salary. And I did that for a number of reasons and realizing, yes, I may be taking some so-called dollars off the table. But I wanted that protection and I was able to focus in on growing and building practices as opposed to what I am producing in that practice. All right. Let me pause here and just talk about one item here that, again, this is a lot more of my personal opinion as opposed to ethos or profession, an opinion within the profession that veterinarians currently and probably in the foreseeable future are going to be compensated on what they produce. But that does not mean in that equation that that's the only way to value a veterinarian's service and contribution to a given practice or community. So just bear that in mind that we're working on some different ways to compensate clinicians, veterinarians, rather than what they produce. Okay, so it's important to note that because I spent the last 10 minutes talking about production, what you produced, what you charged. But I also know that veterinarians do a hell of a lot more than what they produce, and their value is not only in their dollars and revenue gained. So, all right. Other aspects of compensation, you could receive a number of different bonuses. And a lot of the bonuses over the years have more grown in frequency. When I came out of vet school and I did residency, when I took a number of jobs, I was not offered any signing bonus, never retention bonus, etc. But these are becoming a lot more frequent in current state. So signing bonuses range in amounts. It can be a negotiated amount. If you've worked for a period of time and would like to think about leaving, but you really don't want to, you could negotiate for a retention bonus. There could be dollars paid for you if you did additional work, different shifts. Sometimes that's different than what your base salary would be or your other compensation models. It could be a different amounts. If we do this a lot see this a lot in when a resident has completed their residency, but they've yet to gain board certification, that they will get a bonus when they do obtain that certification. Sometimes it's in a percentage, sometimes it's in a dollar amount, sometimes it's both, but additional credentials. And that could be, it doesn't have to apply to a resident. It could be anything. You go off and become a certified acupuncturist or take an ultrasound course and gain a certificate in that. So any additional credentials could lead to a potential bonus option. And any professional activities. Write a book chapter, speak at a conference, work, it was mentioned before, work at a shelter, serve the community. Anything in that regard could lead to a discussion regarding additional compensation for you. Other things that are really common now in veterinary medicine, I've listed them here on the screen. Your insurances, medical, dental, vision, your professional license defense as your insurance, any dues in professional organization. Sometimes it's, an amount. Sometimes it's one due, one organization. Sometimes, again, you can negotiate or talk about several if you feel important that you want to belong to those and have your employer pay those dues. Other aspects are continuing education dollars, how much PTO, personal time off you would receive, a potential uniform allowance. Some states, the state that I'm in, has a cell phone allowance, or sorry, excuse me, some states mandate the employer pay for the cell phone or provide a stipend for the cell phone if it's used for business use. But you can argue for cell phone if you're on call, for example. Other aspects of retirement or part of, other aspects of your compensation would be retirement fund, retirement opportunities, whether it be a 401k, which is growing in standard in veterinary medicine, or it's other. Some smaller organizations or smaller clinics may just have a so-called profit sharing. So, but the opportunities to engage in a retirement plan within your employer, those are part of a compensation package. A lot of these things, could be a negotiated item. These items on the screen may be fairly standard for a given group or given organization. But again, it's worth a discussion. It's worth asking regarding some of these compensation vehicles. All right, other questions? It's both other questions that you may have now or other questions that you could ask on your employment agreement. I put some of them here, and by no means, obviously it's a short list, but there's could be many others that an individual would ask an individual employer about the role or the position. I mentioned it with the pro-sal compensation. There could be a range of different payroll policies. I've been paid on like the 1st and the 15th schedule in some positions, every other week schedule, end of the month schedule. And I told you kind of like I was paid my pro-sal model at the end of the year. So what is the payroll policy for a range of the compensations? Who handles client complaints? What level of support staffing will I have? Who does key workflow items? Any other responsibilities that the employer would want of the veterinarian. And an example, and what equipment might you need to do your daily work? If it's not there, can it be asked for? Can it be negotiated in? Can it be, understood of what's what you would need to do your job? So, all right. Negotiate. Period. Okay. Have an open, honest communication with your prospective employer. Do not be afraid to ask. I say it this way because another trend that we've seen over time, and it's not a very good one, in my opinion, is that we'll meet with candidates and again, this doesn't apply to Ethos. This is industry wide. Meet with candidates, talk, engage in negotiation, formulate and finalize an offer, present that offer, and then never hear another thing from that candidate ever, despite repeated calls, text, emails, multiple opportunities of communication. This and again, a piece of advice to everybody as you enter your professional career, be professional. The lack of response is, in my opinion, unprofessional, and it's not a very good way to start your career in veterinary medicine. If you receive an offer and it's not what you want and you want to go in a different direction, just say it. Hey, I'm going to go in a different direction. Your prospective employer will respect that, appreciate that, and certainly most of the time wish you the best of luck. On your employment agreement, I wrote down here, know what's important to you. If you are talking to a prospective employer and you need Fridays off because of, state that. It's important for me to have most Fridays off. That can be worked into the schedule. The employer most times may not write that into an agreement, but again, you know what the expectations are regarding your new role or your role with that employer. Be clear. Open communication, ask, have that conversation, that dialogue, so that everybody's on the same page. Be ready to hear no. You may ask for something that it's just not possible right now. So you're going to hear no. It's just not possible, period. If you ask for, hey, I want to take a base salary of $1 million and I want you to give me a signing bonus of $5 million. That's probably going to give you a no. But again, some more realistic ask or request on your part, you might hear no. And that's okay because, again, you're negotiating an agreement. I always said when I was doing this over the course of the years, I want to be very fair and I want us to be very flexible. It has to be fair on both sides. When it's fair on both sides, guess what happens? That agreement can last for a very long time, really long time. But if it's unfair to one side or the other, then it doesn't feel right. It's not good, and there's going to be conflict and going to be debate over it sooner rather than later. As I mentioned before, any of these agreements that when you get close to finalizing them and getting close to signing, counsel with legal. I by no means am I an attorney and don't claim to be one, but certainly these are key points for you to note. But state employment law, have the attorney review it, make sure it's all good and fair for you, and make sure that they would provide you some additional talking points or maybe negotiate this or what about that type of thing. So I think that's a good point. And discuss it with a mentor, family, close relative. Discuss it with a if you're a fourth year student, discuss it with a current clinician, current professor. Many of us have personal mentors over the years. Just feel free to discuss it with them and get their opinion and get their insight. No. All right, that's all I had. I don't know what our timeline is. I probably talked a little too fast, but hopefully there are
No, you did
questions.
great. We
Okay,
still have 5 more minutes, and there's actually a couple of questions in the chat that I was waiting until
sure.
the end. So
Yep.
one of the questions is for the pro sal model, what is the average production percentage?
It varies. It varies based on the line of work that you're doing. It would vary on where you're doing that out in certain geographies. It would so many times in a kind of in the spec ER world will commonly be around 25% for starters. It can be negotiated up, and it's usually negotiated up after some time. Been with the group for a year or so, or that type of thing. And I'm my GP world ended in roughly 98, so I don't know and don't have a lot of experience with that. But typically, the production percentages in the GP world are less than that. Okay. So
Thank you. And then the next question is, what protections would be in place for a veterinarian who happens to get a large volume of financially restrained clients and patients? And then they said these patients need and deserve care just as much as wealthy clients, and we would
yeah,
all agree
yeah.
with that. And so, you know, how does like the Ethos manage the salaries of the doctors who are committed to serve all patients and clients?
That's a good question. And, again, that comes back a little bit in terms of, the realities, ugly realities, if you will, of production compensation models. But usually on those situations, we're going to 100% value the work that veterinarians and clinicians provide at any location. So, and if it is commonly serving, those areas, that's all taken into account. It's all taken into account in terms of what we know, commonly what the production would be, what your compensation should be as a veterinarian, and doing the work that you're doing, regardless of demographic of the client. So,
Thank you. And I don't think we had any other questions. Don't sign off just yet, everybody. I do want to share my screen really quickly and just wrap up. Can everybody see my screen again?
yes.
Perfect. So, thank you again, Dr. Hintermeister. This was a great presentation. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Again, this is our very first virtual series, so we hope that you all found this session informative and helpful as you guys start to look through your contracts post-graduation. One of the things I did want to point out that Dr. Hintermeister mentioned is, leaning into a mentor and really making sure you negotiate through the contract process. One thing I will point out is we have a lot of good friends on the recruiting side of things. And so they love it when they are working with a candidate who is brutally honest with them, because the recruiter is really there for the candidate. And they want to see the candidate succeed. So if you are working with a recruiter at any point in your career, whether it's with Ethos, with another company, that would be one little caveat that I would say is just, make sure you're brutally honest and, let them know what you want, because they will definitely fight for that. And they will be brutally honest with you as well. And then on the screen, I did just want to highlight some of the incredible sessions we have coming up in the next few weeks, especially if you are interested in emergency medicine. So we have Introduction to our ER Immerse program on Tuesday, July 16th, so next week. And then the following week, we have Career Development in Emergency Medicine, which is the ABVP path with Dr. Matt Booth. So don't miss out on these sessions. They are fantastic learning opportunities. I will throw the link in the chat in a second, and that'll take you to the website where you can find out more about all of our sessions and then register if interested, if you haven't already. And just a little note, if you do attend 6 or more of our sessions, you will automatically receive a $75 Figs gift card from us. So that will come at the end of our 8-week session, just so we can, track everybody. So probably sometime in September, you'll get it. And then you'll automatically be entered into our raffle for a NADLI prep course. So just a few reminders, and thank you again for being here, and we look forward to seeing you all at the next session. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.